Look, the Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, for those of you in the United States, that's kind of like the Canadian CIA, has flagged the nihilistic violent extremism groups like 764, and there are several other ones, as a new national security threat for Canada. They're tracking nihilistic violent extremism as a distinct threat category, citing online groups like 764 and Maniac Murder Cult. Maniac Murder Cult. Anyway, CSIS defines NVEs as serious violence rooted in rejection of moral and social values. And I looked into this, and to this groups, essentially, life exists for no reason. Life has no purpose. So they're removing any sort of empathy, sympathy, or thinking about the future and an afterlife from these kids' minds. Basically, you serve no purpose. So guess what? Why don't you just go out and do something that makes some sort of noise, right? Makes you feel important. That's the attitude they take. And the end goal is violent chaos rather than traditional political or religious objectives. Now, officials do warn that youth radicalization into these networks often involves coercion into creating explicit or violent content, followed by blackmail to escalate into more extreme acts, including targeting, listen to this, Jewish, Muslim, LGBTQ communities, and government or public spaces. Now, as a parent, as a teacher, you're like, how is this happening? Listen, your kids are playing whatever, Fortnite, whatever these games are, correct? There's a chat. They go into YouTube and they're communicating with people in these chats. Once these adults are able to find out that these are young children, they'll start making connections with them. Hey, where do you live? Are you having any problems? And then somebody who comes from a broken home shares with them that they're in a single parent home and mom's always busy. And so that kind of information is now exploited. Hey, I'll be your friend. And that friendship leads to, hey, send me a picture of this. That picture turns into, oh, I got this picture of you. If you don't go do this, I'm going to let everybody on the internet know. And you can see where that's going. And that just keeps escalating. That's why it's important for you as a parent, regardless of where you're at. You may be in the US, you may be in Canada, you may be in the UK, you may be in South Africa, you may be in Australia, you may be in New Zealand. Look, wherever you are that you understand what I'm saying in English, okay? Pay attention to what your kids are doing, because the internet that they're using is not restricted to the neighborhood that you live. You can literally log into the internet, especially on like TikTok, and you're chatting with someone clear across the globe. You have no clue who these people are. You need to watch what your kids are doing, because the same type of radicalization that happens with this kind of group is also used by groups like ISIS, Al Qaeda, IRGC, Hezbollah, Al Shabaab, all these other ones, and those are even worse. Okay? Keep track of what your kids are doing. Do some internet searches, find out what indicators to look for. There are information is available. I know they have it through the FBI, and start paying attention to what your kids are doing, because you're a parent working your butt off. The last thing you want to do is have bearcats showing up at your door and the whole door gets demolished because the SWAT team's there. Does that make sense? All right, go educate yourself. Make sure you share, like, post, comment. You know what I'm talking about. Be safe and be vigilant.